I'm going to get started with the introductions. I want to say, first of all, welcome to the second discussion for working with your community colleges. Yesterday, we had a very good discussion about the work that's been taking place with our Bay Area program directors and their efforts in engaging their community college systems in Oakland and San Francisco in the Emerald City's mission. There was a lot of discussion about particularly campus sustainability and how to partner with their community colleges in advancing their energy efficiency, energy conservation goals. One of the clear messages that came up in that discussion was the complexity of the relationships, the complexity of the politics and the culture of community colleges, and in order to be successful with having an Emerald Cities Community College partnership, you need to have a better understanding of how to work through those organizational dynamics. This is also important to know because our National Community College Initiative that we discussed yesterday is a multi-layered initiative. It is part energy efficiency, project development, project financing, energy projects, but it is also tapping into, I wonder if everyone can mute their lines because there's a little bit of noise. But the other question or role that we're engaging community colleges around is their traditional role of education, their educational mission to advance workforce development, economic development, to help and assist people, young people and not so young people grow in an academic career. So they're important workforce development providers, they're important economic development drivers in their regions, and they're also very critical to anchoring a broader neighborhood revitalization and sustainability effort. So having those multiple objectives and taking on those multiple roles requires understanding who to talk to, who carries that portfolio, cares about those things to help you begin to navigate that environment. And so given that, what we want to do today is to give you a Community College 101 session. And we have an expert in community college and also an expert in sustainability who will lead us in that discussion. She will provide an overview, Community College 101, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So our guest presenter today is Dr. Debra Rowe, and she is a pioneering voice and leading advocate in sustainability education and initiatives for over 30 years. She's president of the U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development, which convenes members of the business, education, communities, government, faith sectors in the United States and catalyzes sustainability initiatives within that partnership. She's faculty at Oakland Community College, which is actually in Michigan and not California. And she's a professor of energy management, renewable energy technology, and psychology. She's focused on harnessing energy for renewable sources in order to have a sustainable environment that will meet our present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. So with that introduction, I will welcome Debra Rowe for being a part of our learning community today, and to suggest to all of you that Debra has become a very critical partner and resource to us in this community. And so this is just the beginning of a relationship that we'll be having over the next, hopefully, decades. Debra Rowe.
Hi, thank you. And I'm really glad to be here with you all. Is my sound quality okay for you?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, great. So what I want to do is run you through, there we go. Okay. Some slides that will give a conceptual frame for our conversation. And I'm looking forward to that conversation very much. So I titled it Education and Actions for a Sustainable Future, Collaborations with Community Colleges. You've heard about some of my roles. You'll learn more as we move forward. So let's just get started. Higher education, as many of you know, is already taking a leadership role to prepare students and provide the information, skills, and knowledge we need to achieve a sustainable society. But what does that actually look like to say that we're taking a leadership role? And somebody's got noise going on, so if there's a mute button, that might help. But if you can all hear, that's fine. So for higher education, I'm wondering if I can just get rid of that because I don't need to see myself. There we go. Sustainability and the green part of sustainability is being integrated into, of course, curricula and mission and planning and research. And community colleges typically are not research institutions, but there's a fantastic opportunity there for community-based research where we not only do active learning and engagement in real-world problem solving, but then we collect the data so that it's documented and replicable in other places. In the purchasing office and the operations side, of course, the buildings and the way we use our resources on a day-to-day. Professional development for faculty and staff, student life, which can engage students in their groups and in how they interact with the community, and more sustainability. The community outreach and partnerships is key because community colleges see themselves as place-based institutions. You won't get any of this, oh, well, we're a four-year college, we're going to go off and solve the problems of the world, but not, you know, just get a small town-down kind of relationship. No, community colleges are deeply embedded in their local communities and in the social justice as well as the environmental issues of their local communities because it affects their students, and so they're great for working with on community partnerships. Some are stronger than others, and there's a way to help them build in that strength. If you look at the core mission of any community college, it's about helping to create graduates who can contribute to a better community. So it is a core sustainability mission. They don't always implement it well, but it's there. You can oftentimes point to it. And legislation, they're in small letters. It really should be in larger letters because it continues to grow, as you'll see. Let's see if that helps. It should be already muted. I'm still hearing some people echoing. So if you guys could mute your phones, that would be great.
It sounds like the echo is coming from your line.
Well, I couldn't hang up and call back in if you want. How difficult is it? Oh, it just stopped. We're good now, right? You don't hear it?
You're right. It sounds very good now.
Yeah, okay, great. So community colleges are increasingly seeing the importance of getting our policies and regulations, both organizational and governmental, aligned for a sustainable community. And we actually have a national community of action along those lines, but I'll get to that later. So we're involved in sustainability in all these different areas. Oops, no, I think it's frozen. Okay. No, I don't want to stop sharing them. There we go. All right, good. So the key thrust or key outcome is a recognition that sustainability perspectives and skills are core 21st century learning outcomes. And that not just the students, but the students, the staff, and community members need to know how to and be able to choose to be more environmentally, socially, and economically responsible. And of course, the environmental side is a really high priority, and I think we all know it because we're exceeding the carrying capacity of the planet. Unfortunately, sometimes the education has a doom and gloom focus to it and tends to produce students who feel like they need to just make a lot of money and take care of themselves behind gated communities or go hoard food and ammunition and tell everybody to leave them alone. That's not the kind of education we want in terms of our outcomes. So we really want to share with students that solutions exist that can reduce human suffering and environmental degradation now while building stronger economies and higher quality of life. So the core pedagogy for good sustainability education and involvement is not just education, but education to action, to catalyze sustainable communities as the academic assignments for students, and to have this emphasis on real-world problem solving so that our students and our communities build a self-concept that they can help contribute to a better society and actually engage in solution building. So this came from a World Summit, but it's really been built into the national trend of sustainability in community colleges, higher ed in general. That education for a sustainable society enables people to develop the knowledge, values, and skills, participate in decisions. Notice this isn't about sitting around and doing critical thinking, which sometimes can turn into armchair pontification, where people can do a good analysis, but they don't know or don't choose to go out and make effective change. This is about participating in decisions, taking action that will improve quality of life now without damaging the planet for the future. So this has become a very active theme in the national trend of sustainability. There's really only two things we need to know to create a more sustainable future. Only two things we need to do to create a more sustainable future, and those are in red. And so community colleges have been tasked with doing these two things. What's in the yellow circle in the center is whatever comes out of education itself, knowledge, skills. But we need to do two things with that. We need to help our communities change their private choices. Because less than 5% of the world's population, we consume about 25% of the world's resources. And also our public choices, our policies, laws, and regulations in our organizations and our government that build the system that will either support a sustainable future or hinder it. So by making those changes around private choices and the public choices, we can build more sustainable communities and economies. And of course, all of that is done within the context of our ecosystems and the life-sustaining gifts that we all receive every moment that aren't fully costed into our economic systems, like we all just breathe, right? And we didn't pay the full cost of that clean air. So I want to honor your good work. I know you've got a great set of partners here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes in the future with growing that work so you can set precedents for other communities around the country. And we want to help you collaborate as effectively as possible so we can all help shift the system to a more sustainable future. I have some resources for you to help you do that. You should know that the American Association of Community Colleges, which is the main national organization for community colleges, it is a presidential association. So the presidents join. They often come to the annual conference, but so do a lot of deans and vice presidents and vice chancellors and oftentimes faculty as well. And then there's a whole group of collaborative councils, affiliated councils, they're called, that are connected to the American Association of Community Colleges. So the American Association of Community Colleges is also known as AACC. And that's what I'm going to call it from now on, AACC. That's the American Association of Community Colleges, and they are members of one of the national networks that we started. You know, you heard in the introduction that I'm president of the U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development. We have 400 partner organizations, but one of our national networks that we helped to found is TIAC. TIAC is the Higher Education Association Sustainability Consortium, and its core mission is to advance sustainability throughout higher ed. You'll see these are the people who have been or are presently members of TIAC, and AACC has been involved from the beginning. The power of this group is that you can go to a community college and you can talk to the facilities director and say, do you know that your professional association is working on sustainability? That's APA. Or you can go to the business officer and say, do you know that your professional association is working on sustainability? It's McDougal for all of these different areas, and they all have professional associations that are attached. So these represent the following roles at the community college. And by showing them the resources page of TIAC, then we end up with showing them that they're, as a professional, that this is what's going on. So it invites them to participate in this. They don't see it as something that's unusual or that they have to stick their neck out for. In fact, in some ways, you want to make them feel like, oh, you aren't aware of these resources? How wonderful. I'm here to share them with you. So they kind of feel like they're behind. They have to make change. sometimes you have to make people feel a little uncomfortable with the status quo because all change is uncomfortable, even positive change. So use the TS Resource Center. That's a live link, or you can go back to this link here and click on the Resource Center. Now I want to talk to you about what AACC specifically has done. We knew when all this money came out to community colleges for green job training, and we got a lot of it, that we had all these colleges we hadn't done this work before, so all of a sudden we're going to have to. So we decided to help them by starting the Seed Center. The Seed Center is the Sustainability Education and Economic Development Online Resource Center. And what it is it's a coordinated national strategy to support community colleges in building a green and sustainable economy. And what it consists of, the Seed Center, is it consists of a civic engagement component. It consists of community colleges who can sign up. Let me give you some of the details. This is one of the home pages for the Seed Resource Center. And you'll see at the left where it says Resource Center, the sectors that we deal with include not only the solar, wind, the green building, energy efficiency, and sustainability education, but we now have sustainable agriculture and land use. We also have fuels and transportation. And if you click on any one of those societal sectors, you'll see all those subtopics of curricular materials, certifications, and industry credentials, employment, industry projections, etc. Because we knew that community colleges needed to have access to these materials, and rather than all of them collecting them separately, we created technical advisory groups in each of these areas: solar, wind, green buildings, energy efficiency, sustainable ag, transportation, and sustainability education. And I had the pleasure of chairing those technical advisory groups with industry experts and collecting the materials and helping to vet those. And so you can go through those. The innovative practices and partnerships are the ones where we've collected stories of how community colleges have worked with other community partners to build the green economy. You may want to particularly focus on this area of innovative practices and partnerships that my cursor is over. And of course, you get the same submenu in each of these. But the Seed Center is more than that. We also have not just curriculum materials, we have college success stories of colleges that are already doing this good work. We have materials on the components of what a quality green program consists of, and we lay out that includes community partnerships. So there's a lot more, and there's more. I'm not going to go through it all. It's a leadership initiative. We have over 440 colleges that have signed on. The president signed on. It doesn't cost them anything. So you can encourage your local colleges to sign on if they haven't already. And we also have a sharing community. These are all of the Seed Center colleges. Once again, anybody else can join in. And the benefits of it is that not only are they access to those resources, we have regular webinars, and we also have scholarship opportunities for workshops and support for national conferences. We even have college-to-college mentoring and communities of action and technical assistance. It's been really exciting to see this. So one of the things we've noticed, and you may have too, is that not all the pieces to grow the green economy came to fruition. Climate change legislation didn't pass. We had the meltdown with the mortgages, and residential paid got stopped. So we were going to be set up so that it was going to be a net positive cash flow for everybody to weatherize their homes. Mr. Jones, you can throw money away to the utility company, or you can have more cash in your pocket at the end of the first year, and you're polluting less and your bill will go up. But that didn't happen as easily as we wanted it to with the meltdown. So now we need policy changes so that we can get rid of these barriers that make it so much easier to hook into a coal-fired power plant than to hook into energy efficiency or renewable energy. And community colleges know that they have to engage because now they've developed all these green job training programs, and now they need to make sure the jobs are there. So we've created a community of action in policy and civic engagement to grow green jobs. I happen to run that community of action. It's a real passion of mine, and we're bringing to the community colleges information on national policies and helping them set up their structures for local policies. Because right now, utilities are regulated, fossil fuel companies are regulated in ways where oftentimes community colleges could make the difference if they were at the policy table, and they're not. So we've got templates on how to engage the governmental relations office, how to engage faculty to include this in learning assignments in their courses, how to engage student groups, and also the public. So I could talk a lot more about that, but I'm not going to because we need to move ahead. But we're aware that there are all sorts of local, regional, and federal policies that impact the growth of green jobs. We hope that you'll join us in working on that policy. We even have a toolkit on this that's available on the Seed Center page, and there's the link. We also have additional toolkits. One on campus is a living lab. A new upcoming toolkit is for trustees, boards of trustees, and the role that they have in sustainability. We also have a Green Genome initiative where it looks at the DNA of quality green programs and how you can help make your colleges be the best that it can be. So all sorts of resources. Now I'd like to talk about how you can work with community colleges. Understand that community colleges are made up of multiple components. Community college mission almost always includes all of the following, although some may have less than that, but it would be unusual. We have students that are going to take the first 2 years of college without them in transfer, although that's generally a fairly small percentage, but they do exist, and in some colleges it's quite robust. We have a lot of people who are coming to get skills so they can have technical careers, and then we have a lot of people who come back for upskilling. So, for example, I had 3 professional engineers in my Intro to Renewable Energies class this last semester, and 1 project manager. They're all just interested in getting into the field. They already have bachelor's degrees, many of them master's degrees. So be careful about how you stereotype the students at community colleges because we're so diverse. We also have workforce development departments with customized training for companies, community education, which sometimes is about professional training and sometimes it's just about self-interest, self-enhancement, education. And then there's also a role that community colleges play in educating the public with speaker series, special events for the public. And then, of course, we also form partnerships. And there's some really exciting work with community colleges forming partnerships to create sustainable regions and states and even at the country level. So what's the structure of most community colleges? We have a board of trustees who hire either the president or the chancellor. They may have either title. And then you have vice presidents or vice chancellors, typically 1 for finance and 1 for academics. You then have the deans, the deans of student life and deans of academics. They generally will report to the vice chancellor or vice president of academics. And you have the faculty who will have a working relationship with their deans, depending on whether it's a unionized college or not. Depends on oftentimes where the power is. But sometimes it's about the culture too. Some campuses, the faculty have a tremendous amount of power. And some colleges, it's all about what the president wants. And then there's all sorts of a continuum in between. The staff, of course, includes facilities. The facilities guy oftentimes reports to the VP for finance. Student life counselors, administrators, administrative assistants. And then, of course, there's the students, and it's all about the students. Workforce development and community ed is often treated as a profit center where it has to make money, so that's a constraint that it has, but also can be more flexible in working with the community sometimes. It depends on who's in there. Then, of course, I talked about the community speaker event series that can have a lot of power to help to educate the community and build market demand for sustainability. The power centers vary, but some other structures you should know that might have a lot of power. The faculty senate oftentimes has a lot of power. The faculty union oftentimes too. So one of the key things you can do is find the champions within the faculty who care about green and sustainability. And oftentimes they can get things done. Don't assume that the hierarchy is real. There's informal power structure in addition to the formal hierarchy that oftentimes is what really makes things happen. So get advice. Listen first. In working with community colleges, if you want to make things happen on both the campus sustainability level and academic and community programs, I would make the following recommendations. As I've already mentioned, find your sustainability champions in the system. They may be in faculty, they may be in administration, they may be students. By the way, students have a lot of power when they show up at meetings to say this is what we want to get things done. Speak to the formal power silos of power and find out what they care about and use their language. So, for example, we had a president very interested in futuring. He was a World Future Society member. So we called it a Futures Institute, and he ended up funding it, and all the programming was around sustainability. So use their language, build bridges. If they have a sustainability coordinator, definitely connect with them. Some are more effective than others, so don't just connect to them, but also help use them to network with others. Provide opportunities to students to analyze the possibilities. So, for example, I run an energy management course. My students go out and do energy audits on commercial buildings. If you want to do energy efficiency retrofits on campuses, have the students go out and do the feasibility analysis, the first walkthrough audit, and depending on the level of the course, you can even get close to a level 2 audit, hash rate audit. And also the student groups can do that as well if you have an environmental group. There's lots of precedents, by the way, with students doing this work, or even building the demand for this work. Use, of course, the Steve and the GF, not only their resources, but the precedents that they have of look at what your peer institutions are doing, or ask them who their aspirational institutions are and show them what they're doing. AACC is a wonderful resource too. I'll show you that in a minute. Be prepared to work with people who are resistant and to tell them you're there to help them look good and do good and to toot their horns about all the great things they've done. And I would give awards out to people. We found that that's very helpful. The role of community colleges in workforce development, I'm just going to say a couple of words about that. They build articulation agreements with employers, with building trades. Some of the more innovative ones, progressive ones, give credits for life experience. Oftentimes they have to deal with basic skills that people are deficient in and creating the bridge programs, the educational pathways to success. And of course, community colleges are key in the role for career and technological education. And you should know, we don't have time to go through it today, but the U.S. Department of Education just put out new standards for career and tech ed for the National Association of State Directors of Career and Tech Ed for K-12. And that has implications for community colleges as well. And I'll get that resource to you. I just noticed it's not on here, so we'll include it in the future email. In terms of community and college engagement together, the role of community colleges, if they really embrace their role, is to be community partners to build sustainable economies in communities. So, for example, we had one college president who went to his local city council and took their city plan and put sustainability all the way through it. I already told you about the energy audits. Students educate the community. We're also starting an initiative between transition towns and community colleges so that students can work on helping communities move off of fossil fuels to a cleaner and greener energy future. I do want to make a couple more important points and then I'm done. It's very important for you to remember that the green jobs are not just the technology-based jobs, that all jobs are green jobs. And these are the ones people typically think of, but in all of our jobs, we have resource decisions to make. And so we can have impact on whether we're going to have a more toxic future or a healthier, greener future. There are also very specific upstream green jobs we need so that the technicians can get employed. And they include these jobs, And these jobs, I'm not going to take the time to go through because we don't have the time today, and these jobs. So really what this means is that this green and sustainability curricula has to be integrated into all degrees, all certificates, because every job has a green component to it, and we're really at the point now where we have to make change. Otherwise, we're going to cause lots of human suffering and lots of wasted resources. For more resources for you when I'm done. U.S. partnerships have extensive resources. We can be mainstream leaders and create national initiatives. You can go to uspartnership.org and you can read about it. We have very active higher ed and K-12 and teacher education sector teams where we work with national organizations that all have reach into your local communities. We encourage you to take advantage of that. Also, your faculty in all the different disciplines, we went to where the faculty go. And the U.S. partnership created this national network called DAN, made up of academic disciplinary societies. That site has robust resources on how to teach sustainability in all these different disciplines, plus more. So I encourage you to look at that because they're integrating sustainability into curricula, into promotion, into legislation, informing the public, and really with the identity of what an academic is. So go to that resources page, and there's your link. 3 more groups. The American College and University President's Climate Commitment. A lot of community colleges have signed on to that. It is a commitment to do 2 things. To have a greenhouse gas reduction plan, and with the commitment to eventually get off of fossil fuels altogether and to take their greenhouse gas emissions down to 0, which is amazing. The powerful and wonderful commitment, but also they have a commitment to educate all their students about environmental sustainability and the solutions. AACC is the second resource there. That's the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Ed. They have free bulletins, and they have all sorts of resources. Some of them you can't get into if you're not a community college member because there'll be lots that your community college could get into it, and a lot of them are open resources. The last group is a U.S. Department of Ed funded 3-year project called Sustainability Improves Student Learning, and we're doing all sorts of things through that project with sustainability in the textbooks, in real-world problem-solving and high enrollment courses. We've got 6 different projects. So there's my contact information. And if you have other questions, I'm glad to answer them. But I think we've left the time you wanted for conversation, all right?
Thank you, Debra. That was, Dr. Rowe, an amazing set of information, resources, and networks for us to all connect to. I would like to open it up for questions and general discussion. I perhaps would like to start with my own couple of comments to share. One is the role of community colleges in the education and training arena and the workforce development arena. One of the things that I think is critical if we're going to grow sustainable regional economies is to make sure that everyone in the community, in the region, either has the skills, the competencies, or at least the sensibilities about what sustainability is all about. As an individual value, as behavioral changes that need to take place at the personal level, the household level, community colleges have a role in helping provide that kind of community education. But also in the career development arena, it's important to think about careers for our communities, not just in the building sciences, but also in the natural and environmental sciences. Also in environmental justice, environmental organizing, environmental planning and development, in the business and marketing arena. I think that Debra gave you a laundry list of jobs that are green and not so green, but has a green application or a green mission. And so if there's anything that we should be doing, it's actually filling up those seats in your community colleges with students out of our community to learn all the skills, all the competencies to engage in the career opportunities that will be made available to them once they are engaged in this arena. So let's help our community colleges by connecting our community residents to the courses that exist, and also to help those community colleges actually develop new courses to make sure that they have a comprehensive curricula that's made available to advance our mission. The last thing I would mention about this is the work that, I don't know if Art's still on the line, that the building trades have been doing, which is to build articulation agreements between the training that takes place within our local building council and community colleges. I've been learning from our building trades partners that one of the ways that they're refilling the jobs in the construction industry is by telling their parents and their students that actually construction is a college degree, that you can actually get college credit by going through an apprenticeship and a pre-apprenticeship program, and by getting community college credits, because we often make the choice that it's either construction or it's college. Art, are you on the line? Can you address that in any other way? Okay, he was on earlier, so I'm not sure if he's still...
So this is Debbie, and I can say a couple things about that. I just met last week with the head of the Green Mechanical Council, and the unions, as well as non-union shops, are really interested in doing articulation agreements and utilizing community colleges to give credentials to the work that they've been doing, to give advanced placement, to in the career pathways if you do go the union route, and we're meeting on that really soon. So there's that piece. There's also one other piece I forgot to mention, which is crucial. Lots of times you have to go to green businesses and help them grow. So we gave a seminar called Increase Your Business, Improve Your Profits by Going Green, and we had over 100 companies join that. So there's a whole employer engagement side that community colleges can help you do. And then we also go to businesses that aren't green yet but could be, show them how to be green, utilize students to be interns to help them be green, and then they end up creating jobs for themselves. So there's that component as well.
Right. So let's open it up. Other comments or questions? Got quite a few people on.
This is Steve Gelb in Seattle, and I just had a question. If community colleges are going to engage in efficiency themselves in buildings, are there certain trends or resources for funding of those projects? Are they typically through state budgets? Are they through bonding? Or how does that typically work?
So there's a wide variety of strategies that have been used, and it depends on whether it's a centrally controlled system or whether the colleges have their own bonding capabilities or funding capabilities, what the state policy is, whether they're working together as a group of community colleges. Now, you're from Seattle, right?
Right.
So Seattle community colleges have gone through this "we're so poor we can't afford to" phase. At least that's what it was like the last time I was out there. And I thought to myself, well, you're not going to go out of business with community colleges, so let's find the funding for you. And sometimes they've done it internally. Sometimes they've done it with, I've seen colleges that have done it with student green fees, where the students have pushed it. Sometimes it's the state that comes through and says, we're wasting taxpayer money. Sometimes it's an ESCO. There's been a lot of work with the ESCOs, the energy service companies. Sometimes it's self-funded. So there's a wide variety. Now, if you want to see what that list is, if you go to the HEAP website and go to the Resource Center and look under NACUBO is the business officers, right? So they have a series of articles on our HEAP website that address exactly that issue. So that would be one place for you to go. And there's also AACC has some reports on how colleges have funded this work. NACUBO has also gotten involved, by the way, on the policy side. Now, when you talk to your community colleges, they may say, we don't belong in NACUBO because we belong to the Community College Business Officer Group, and that group has been less involved with funding of sustainability. So do redirect them to the NACUBO work, and I'll show it to you as you guys ask your next question.
And Steve, I would also mention to you that Emerald Cities at the national level have been working with a number of private equity investors who are mission-related investors who are very much already investing in engaging in community colleges. We will be bringing at least a dozen or more of those to our community college launch in Oakland later this year. But they are actually organizing themselves to create a pooled fund. Typically, and we're helping to structure this, a public-private partnership structure where the bonding capacity of the community colleges can be used to provide the credit enhancements for these investment dollars, as well as to drive down sort of their ROI on this. So I think that's one of the important value proposition that Emerald Cities can bring to the table, because very often community colleges look within their own public sector resources to do these projects, to invest in these projects, and we're saying that there are other ways to do that and to leverage private sector resources, sort of an innovation that we want to bring into the conversation.
Great. Thank you.
So here's some Nisqually resources, just so you know. Here's also NAEP, the National Association of Educational Procurement. That shows all sorts of examples there. You can see all that publications. You can also go up to APA, and APA is the one that deals with the facilities, leadership in educational facilities, so that's there. And also at the Seed Center itself, there's, under each of those subtopics, there's a piece on funding and policy, so you can look at the funding examples as well.
Great, thank you.
By the way, if you're at the Seattle colleges, Seattle Central, Edmonds, one other college that I can't remember right now, and Washington State University just got a National Plant Foundation grant to do work around sustainable agriculture. Pretty exciting stuff. Jason Niegler, N-I-E-D-L-E-R, is the co-PI on that. So here you can see the policy and funding clicked under each of these subtopics. And then you can scroll down to the resources.
Are there other questions, comments?
Denise, I do have a question. This is Tara. Thank you so much, Deborah. There's just so much information that you're providing here. I did just a quick search, and I saw that Laney is part of the iSeed organization. So I was surprised that the other campuses weren't a part of it. It wasn't Peralta, but that it was actually Laney, which kind of does drive the Green Jobs Initiative. And so my question is, so I know that obviously they're engaged with some of these resources, and so it's not a matter of me saying, hey, here's this, do you want to sign up for resources, which might be the case for other councils looking to see if their community college is involved in or engaged in this membership. But how do you see us as Emerald Cities using your information to drive the conversation? So, for example, I imagine there's staff and faculty researching the websites looking for funding. How do you imagine, myself going in and saying, hey, let's look at this together, let's collectively do this research? What do you imagine us being able to do with these wonderful resources?
Well, I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to ask Debra to perhaps tell us where the best practices are. But at this point in time, you in Oakland, the Peralta system, you've engaged the highest level of the hierarchy in the Emerald City's vision and mission. So the trustees, the chancellor, the sustainability director. You're really focused and have a solid work plan around campus sustainability. I would, at this point, probably go back to those same champions and ask to build a bigger table and to build sort of a planning or steering committee where you can tell the Emerald City story to the faculty, you can sell it to the procurement and the business offices and folks that are working in student life, the students as well, and begin to establish, and it may be system-wide or it may be college by college. I think depending on, it might be better to do college by college and then have a system-wide coalition to really to ask them to be leaders, anchor institutions in this broader mission of creating sustainable communities, and to talk about the policy issues and the educational issues and the business development issues, and to do some strategic thinking and planning with your local councils around this. Then the resources become helpful, because I think it's not that you're selling them and linking them to the resources. You're trying to engage them in the work and do this in a way that leverages your capacities and resources and theirs to have a bigger impact. So I'm not sure, Debra, if in your world that makes sense. Have you seen college campuses where there is interdisciplinary and cross-sector engagement around building a broader sustainability agenda?
Yeah, it varies a lot depending on the college. And so I just wrote down what I think is great. I use this sentence all the time, and it works. You have a unique and important role to play to help create a sustainable future for the region. It'll make your college economically healthier as well and provide better job placements for your students. I think once you've found who the champions are, you may want to share with them, and I know you have a stunning vision here. I get that. That's part of why I really like Emerald Cities, because you include so many of the pieces in your vision. But it's also sometimes helpful to show them the precedents that are going on in other communities. I want to show you that if you go to uspartnership.org and then you click on communities on the left and click on the resources, click here, so just click there. You're going to see what was originally developed for us by some people at Cornell and the Sustainable Initiative in Ithaca, New York, which has been quite robust. There's all sorts of resources here on communities that are creating sustainable regions for themselves. So I think taking some time to read the stories about what's going on in other towns and bringing the enthusiasm and some of the specifics of the visions and the tools to the colleges is helpful. So share your enthusiasm for the power that their community college has. And they'll say things like, oh, I can't deal with it, I don't have enough bandwidth for this, we don't have the people. And then you can say, well, HEASC, once again, which is the Higher Education Association Sustainability Consortium, has as their theme using the campus and the community as a living lab for sustainability and engaging students in helping to make this happen. So there's a wide variety of strategies that you can use. But here's just one I throw out at you.
And I would also go back to a point that Debra made in the very beginning of the question that you asked, and that is understand the self-interest of the college. And their self-interest is notoriety and prominence. So what is their reputation and how can they build that reputation? Because that reputation drives what? The thing they care about most is students. See, they don't care about the research. They really care about the number of folks that are actually attending their college and taking their classes and paying their tuition. So to the extent that you're always aware of what we're doing and how it's creating seat capacity for them, it's getting jobs. That's the other thing that Debra mentioned, that they're being job generators, demand generators, so that they're not training folks that won't have opportunities when they're finished being trained, and playing a role in that, which would do nothing but enhance them even further as really vital community institutions.
And you can assist them. When they say we don't have bandwidth, you can say, we can help you create a learning community. There's certain powerful, low-hanging fruit. So set up a web page where everybody can tell their stories of how they're trying to live in a more sustainable manner and the kinds of efforts they're making, so that it builds that excitement. I really like the idea of taking a course like a sociology or a psychology course, some courses teaching about surveys, having the students go out into the community and interview government, business, and nonprofit organizations. Say, if you could be more sustainable, what would you like to be doing? And creating a list of possible projects that students can engage in. And then they can post that in their service learning office and make it available to their faculty. Because right now about 95% of what students do in college is they write papers and they take tests, and they're not actually practicing being an active change agent in the community. So helping them move to community-based learning, community-based action learning, and research, if they want to get into the research side, is a way to help the whole campus come alive. I also think you can tell stories with this, and stories are very powerful to help people move along. So you can offer to co-convene. You can tell the stories of communities that are already making a difference. You can do a service leadership model. Servant leadership. How can I assist you in moving your sustainability initiative forward? See if you can get into those sustainability committee meetings. If they don't have them, offer to help create them. You go to each of the staff areas and core faculty and say, you know, you have a unique, remember that line I just showed you, you have a unique and important role to help create a sustainable future. How can I assist you? I have all sorts of resources for you. Now, dealing with the facilities guy and the VP of Finance, that's another story, where you have to be willing to give your ask. You know, most people don't say yes until the 4th to 7th time you ask. And you have to handle their objections and flush them out and learn to say things like, so what else would keep you from going ahead with this? So if we can handle these things, then you're willing to go ahead with it. So a little bit on understanding how you help people move forward to a decision and support them in it.
I want to highlight I taught, many of you may or may not know, at a community college for 15 years and taught courses in sustainable development. And I'm very clear about, number one, the enthusiasm of the students around this work. There's nothing that excites them more. There's nothing that they're committed to doing more than really building their future and making that future sustainable. So looking at the student population as a way to be a champion for your work is critical. They could be an important extension of the mission and extending the ideas of sustainability into communities, and by going into people's homes. You talk about surveying, Debra, businesses and nonprofit organizations, but really just getting the message out house by house and educating communities, going to churches. There's no better person than a young person to tell the story, for them to be the billboard for what they want their future to be and how they're engaging the older population to be a part of building that future for them. So the other thing that I know, that students have a lot of money. Most of their student fees, or they have money that actually, I remember our administration used to always borrow money from the student pot to make projects happen. So they can do community projects. They can do community gardens. There's all kinds of things that you can do with the resources that the students have themselves to demonstrate and pilot community and sustainability projects. Okay, I don't have my glasses on, but Atlanta, Gary, you have a question? I actually don't see it in my chat.
In Atlanta, it took literally years to get local community colleges to move on green and sustainability initiatives. Thus, they became lagging followers instead of movement leaders. How do we get these institutions to be less grant-focused and more focused and genuinely engaged in environmental sustainability?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because they tend to say, well, give us money to do this. And I think it's important to back up and say that you have a unique and important role to play, and that we're seeing this being integrated into all disciplines. It's just updating our curriculum. It's updating our partnership. Now, did you say Atlanta? Is that where you are? So go to Georgia.
That's Atlanta.
Yeah, so Georgia Tech is a leader in this nationally. Yes, they may be a 4-year school, but your community colleges are going to be feeder schools to 4-year schools. So how do you get them to be, instead of laggards, leaders? Call them leaders. Celebrate what they've already done. Help them to do something that looks more like a leader, so that they can walk into that self-concept. and talk about, here's an important thing. You said, how do you get them to integrate it in without money? So I just came back from Berea College. Berea, the students are so poor that none of them pay tuition. That's how poor they are. And they have an endowment, actually, that covers their tuition. But in terms of the faculty, we did a faculty development workshop and a faculty and staff development workshop. I gave them a 5-minute exercise. I said, take something that you have to teach anyway in your classes, take a sustainability idea, and now create a learning activity that includes both. And within 5 minutes, 24 faculty had a new learning assignment. The next session, I said to them, bring in your syllabus. And I gave them 45 minutes. Once you describe the basics of what sustainability education is, 45 minutes I gave them. And I said, I want you to integrate sustainability throughout the whole course. And share at the end of the 45 minutes, how far you've gotten. Every single faculty person in the room who had not taught sustainability before had integrated sustainability through their whole syllabus. So there is this, this isn't that hard to do. We have, if you go, we have this wonderful resource that the ACPA, which is the Student Affairs Organization, has put together, and it's a poster that anybody can use with their student organization. So here you're at the HEAP site, you go to ACPA, and they have a flyer for student organization. Will open up without overloading everything. You go to the people in charge of student groups and you say, look at this. It's free, it's downloadable, print it off. Each student group can contribute to sustainability. So take it to the different student groups, talk to them about what they can do. I don't care if it's just being better about how they deal with their garbage at the end of their meetings, but of course they can be more inventive than that. And you have the student groups sign on about how they're helping to create a more sustainable future. Or set up a table where students go to eat, and the sign says, like one of the schools did, I care about renewable energy. And you have them, where are you from? Okay, here's the number to your elected representative. Just call them and tell them you care about renewable energy. So all of a sudden you have this experience that the students can have in their co-curricular event. It's about doing enough things so it becomes fun to be a part of it and exciting. So that's part of what I would say.
We are out of time.
That's helpful.
It is very helpful. We're out of time, but if there's one or two other questions that we can squeeze in quickly, let's do that. And while we're waiting for you to sign on to chat, let me say this. One of the important reasons why you should engage your community college is because it's enduring. It's been there 50 years, 100 years. It's going to be there probably past the life of Emerald Cities. And if we're going to, and the sustainable development work is a 20-50-year agenda. And there's no way that we're going to get there without this anchor institution being a critical partner in our sustainable development plan. Some of this stuff, once you organize it, plant those seeds, it'll have a life. It has a life of its own. You just want to be a part of that life and then help it flourish and blossom and grow even further. And that's where you can turn around and say our work is done because you've got an educational environment that's growing the next generation of workers and consumers. You've got business development. You have economic development opportunities. There's no way that we can do this without engaging our community colleges in a significant way. And they are, in fact, leaders in this. And the resources that you see that Debra gave us today just shows the wealth of intellectual capital and material resources that have been developed in support of community colleges. Let's deploy it into the community. And that's the last thing I'll say is that make certain that the colleges are coming off the campus and they're coming into the community. If there's any real push that needs to be made, it's really in that space so that they're working in a larger platform with a bigger canvas, working on policies, working on the larger financing and economic development strategies. That's your role, is to help them do that. Any last questions? Comments? Well, since everyone is on mute, I'm going to say we are giving you all, Debra, a round of applause. It would be deafening if you could actually hear it. But to let you know that we appreciate you spending time putting this 101 webinar together for us, sharing your knowledge, your resources, your experiences. We will be engaging you further in probably a more consulting role as we go forward. But thank you again for everything you've done, and thank you all for participating in what I thought was a very lively and enriching conversation. So go at it, folks, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.